Hello, everyone. Welcome to Performing Arts, episode 5 of season 2. My name, as always, is Bryan M. Davis. Joining me today is
Deanna. I go by Dayi Sanchez. I am a producer. I'm starting to write, or actually publicize my writing a little bit more. And yeah, I don't know. Those are the things I've been doing for theater and stuff like that.
Yeah, Dayi and I have go back a couple of years now. I actually got one of my plays called Lex Italianus actually was put into a play festival that she was actually producing, and I really haven't. The only time I was able to do that beforehand was essentially doing it with a Manhattan Repertory Theater in New York City, and that was the only time I was able to do it. I thought I wouldn't have another chance to do it. I just happened to do that you went to, I believe, the same community college as me, or Manhattan Community College, right?
I went to Queens College, and I went to LaGuardia. That was my associates, and then I went to Queens College. I think did you find me? And like I'm all up on like groups and Facebook groups.
Yes, essentially. So
I shared it, and because I one of the things that I think is important is community, especially if you're coming from like a CUNY college or community colleges. Enough of that community or conversations, because I feel it's always competitive. But yeah,
my mistake.
No,
I always assumed that you were a BMCC alum, or at least partly a student of BMCC, because you know, I always just like when I see that, I was like, oh, they must be a BMCC alum. But yeah, you went to Queens College, Queens College, and also LaGuardia Community College. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about the CUNY aspect of being a theater too in a little while. But yeah, you were sending out word about this play festival. I decided to say, hey, I have a play. It's somewhat producible. It's somewhat workable, and we had a great discussion at LaGuardia. One night in LaGuardia, I actually had to go and actually haul my ass out of Brooklyn for once. Going to Queens, which I did not like to do, but it's not going into Queens I don't like to do, it's the traveling to Queens that I don't like to do. Because in Brooklyn, you got to take, depending on what train you are, you may have to take at least 2 trains just to get to Queens. So unless you happen to be in one of the trains that actually goes into Queens that is in Brooklyn, like the G train. I know the G train goes into Queens, that's what the Q train goes.
And the M as well, like the M train goes from the Metropolitan one, goes to Brooklyn, from Queens to Brooklyn.
I actually don't see the M as much as I used to, only when I'm in the city. It's like I would just see the city in the M in the city, but that, again, this is like a whole open discussion about
Yeah, it's difficult to get to. It really is.
Queens is difficult to get to, but the moment I got to Queens, I was like, you know what? And Long Island City, from what I was seeing, just as I was coming into Long Island City, I was like, you know what? Queens ain't that bad. And I'm walking around, I'm like, yeah, it ain't that bad. And I'm in LaGuardia, and I'm like walking around LaGuardia. It's like a very friendly campus, and of course, it's like a very massive campus too. And it's like I did not expect that place to be a very big campus, because I expected I expected it to be like a community college similar to like maybe BMCC or maybe Kingsborough, because I was the only community colleges I was that I relate to, and Kingsborough is a massive college also, but LaGuardia, I was like, just walking through the halls of LaGuardia, is like you just see like the entire building is like one big giant hallway, and not like hallway in the sense of like it being like one big hallway, but like it's almost like a mansion where it's like the entire ceiling is just like, you just look up and like, this is one big ceiling, because it goes up, because it goes upwards. And of course, I've had friends who have gone to Queens College, and they've invited me to Queens College. This thing, I can never get out to Queens College because that's probably even further out too.
Yeah, that's very. It's a way. It's a way to get, like, it's a whole trip.
Yeah. What we're talking. Oh yeah. You're the 5 borough thing. Yeah. So, in essence, I submitted my play, and Dayi was so gracious for me to actually be into the thing, and not only that, but she was so collaborative too, and I learned a lot in terms of actually producing my own play, almost on a grassroots, like almost like a grassroots thing, where it's like you don't have a budget, but you have a budget to be a budget somewhat. It's like you're not paying your actors, but you're paying your actors with kindness and food, probably mostly just with food,
Yeah,
drinks, just like drinks and food, that sort of thing. But yeah, and yeah, the both of us really connected with that sort of thing. So I'm just really grateful that you are one of my great friends now, especially nowadays, where it's just like, hey, I have a problem. It may be one of those like, and I would often just like hit you up with like questions about theater, that sort of thing, and you'd be like, I know what you're talking about, and you would give like great answers about that. But
oh God, I'm always like very grateful to help as much as I can, you know.
But in terms of your, huh?
I don't know everything, but you know, I try to absorb as much knowledge and help people. And if I don't know the answer, I'm always trying to look for it. So
Yeah, but there's like whenever for whatever reason, it's like you know a few things about a few things, and you just happen to be quite smart. So, but yeah, in terms of your performing arts background, what is your background in general in performing arts? Like, were you mostly a theater person growing up, or did you discover acting? Like when, yeah, essentially what I mean.
Well, I actually started more in the beginning for music. I love singing, and that since I was very little, I loved I wanted to be a singer. That was like that's something that I've dreamed, I thought about, I sang, and I pushed myself towards that, right? I never I didn't have money. My parents didn't have money to take me to any schools for singing or anything like that. But in high school, I actually went to aviation high school, which is if you can hear the reference, aviation. It's about airplanes, about building airplanes. It's in the Queens, and it's a great school. Thinking about it now, it's a great, wonderful school, but it just wasn't for me. It wasn't a great fit because I'm very not really into airplanes or going into that path. But I ended up going to a charter school which didn't have the arts as a thing, but it had just a different environment, which had drama classes, and I think they had a singing class. They had more clubs than I would see in public schools. It was a charter school. So when I went to high school at Williamsburg Charter, there I entered the theater aspect of it, because I had drama classes. It was an elective of mine, so it was something that I did consistently. And I had a friend who was very very enthusiastic about theater, and he taught me a lot. And I feel like he also welcomed me into that world that I didn't think I wanted, or I didn't think it would be part of it. So that's how I sort of came into theater. And then I loved it so much, I literally studied it throughout my whole college career. So it was something that in the beginning, it was very actor centric, I a little performative, just me actually performing. And I think I think my reasoning for now to become more of a producer, or learning things on the backside as an administrator in theater, I think is because there wasn't I wasn't seeing certain opportunities, and so I didn't like how things were run.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to learn how to do that. I wanted to learn who is the person in charge of this, because I thought my friends were so dope. Like, I wanted them to give them opportunities. I'm like, why not me be the one to, you know, exercise and learn? Even though I might not know exactly how to do it, that's, you know, just me trying and going towards that. Because, I mean, I went to Queens College. Queens
Yeah.
College does not have a concentration. Like, I would say Brooklyn College has
Yeah.
concentrations. Lehman has concentrations. Queens College doesn't. So when I remember asking my my what's it called, their advisor,
Yeah, advisor.
your advisor, I was like, you know, I really want to get into producing and like learning about that, and it was sort of dismissed because there wasn't enough for me. They weren't providing me enough resources, and
Yeah.
you know, not all theater teachers are like super like, here you go. You
Yeah,
know.
I've noticed that some of the colleges I know of have no concentrations in terms of things. I know when I was at Hunter didn't have a concentration in terms of the theater. I think it was just like a general BA in theater, and most of the BA was just like learning about acting, behind the scenes, that sort of thing. And then other programs, you know, with like film or something like that, they had like concentrations. Like if you were in film, it's like if you're, you know, same thing with Brooklyn College. But in Brooklyn College, the theater there, it has like different tractions. You know, it has the BA, which is in the regular BA. Then there's BA, and then there's a BFA, and then the BFA is like acting, technical theater, technical design, I believe, or I might be wrong there, but technical design and technical theater might be the same thing. But it's essentially different things. And then there is the MFA program, you know, masters, and you know, in that you get like acting, directing. Same thing as again production stuff like design. You know, again production like stage management, that sort of thing. I know one of my friends is a MFA stage manager there at Brooklyn College, and her, you know, last semester was shut down because of, you know, COVID, because of all the, you know, productions were shut down because of COVID. So, again, I really don't like dragging COVID into the thing, but I think that's also a thing about this podcast is that every episode or so, there's got to be COVID talk. So yeah, but yeah,
we got to. We're doing it. Through Zoom. You know, it's part of the whole thing.
Yeah, but yeah, especially in CUNY, especially in CUNY colleges and community colleges, they don't really. A lot of colleges I've actually looked up and researched, especially going back to college, is that a lot of these places don't have like tractions depending on the college. Like Brooklyn College and what you just said before, Lehman, they both have track. Well, yeah, Lehman has a traction, right?
Yeah, they have track like something like a concentration.
Yeah, I call it tracks, or that's essentially the same thing. Concentration. As I said, Hunter doesn't have a concentration unless it's in different departments. But in terms of theater, a lot of and this is something I noticed that in different places, especially talking to different people about their theater experiences at a community college, is that the professors will be helpful, but the departments wouldn't be as helpful as much as they could be. It's like, you know, generally speaking, the departments will be as helpful as they can be. The professors will be like super helpful, depending on, they will always be like great professors, but when you have to deal with the department, that's when there are much more of a problem dealing with, like CUNY, especially in terms of theater, because in theater, everything is essentially everything boils down to essentially, do we have the budget for this, all that stuff? Do we have could we have the budget for all this stuff? You know, where do we put this production here? You know, just to give that example, a couple semesters ago, Gloria was actually being produced not only at Brooklyn College, but I think at Queens College too. And and at Brooklyn College, we had a little black box theater, so it was a very more small, intimate space. But from what I saw at Gloria at Queens College, I think it was on like a bigger stage. So they had much more of a bigger space. And at Brooklyn College, the main stage is much more used for essentially the more larger spacious for the most part, and the more smaller space, which is essentially the black box space. Even though it's not like a black, even though it's a black box, it's not like an actual black box. Where it's just like the it's essentially a black box theater. But yeah, in terms of spacing and stuff like that, it's hard to be a theater student in CUNY when theater in CUNY really don't see eye to eye sometimes. And as a CUNY alum, has there been instances where it's like you wanted to do a production, or you seen people wanting to do a production, but they couldn't really just do it? Because at BMCC, I could tell you like stories about what happened with that. But
I think I would say, I mean, I definitely agree that I think when students are creating a production, there's always like, in some concern, I understand the concern of seeing students trying to create a show. And if it doesn't go well, or if they give like the student a certain amount of money with like the budget, and they spend it on who knows what, like I can understand from an administrative perspective that they kind of want to protect their own backs, because they don't know what the student is up to, right? However, I would also say that I feel like there isn't a conversation of how to actually, be able to create that thing, be able to produce shows, especially for students, especially now, because I feel like theater can be looked at as like, like there's like these people up there who can only produce shows, and for me, I feel like, when I break it down on how to actually produce a show, to me it's fairly easy, because in my head, like, if we all work together, we can do this. And I feel like if you're able to teach students how, there'll be more stories, right? There'll be more a diversity of stories. There's actual inclusion when you're actually providing information and resources for students. And I think a lot of times there's this conversation, at least in the schools that I've been to, where it can either be like they want to supervise, but they're judging it.
Yeah.
Like judging the process, or they're like, you're doing it wrong. Like telling us, no, you're not doing this, not how it's supposed to go. Why didn't you think about this? They're, telling us like we needed to have like all the experience that they have had, when we've only said, hey, this is my first show I want to produce, and I don't know anything. Guide me, help me, tell me things that I need to do or think about. Like, really, like, don't just sit one day and send me a list of things I need to do. Actually guide me, be my mentor towards this. So when at the end of that goal or the end of that show, right, I feel like, wow, I've actually learned something with my professor. If you want like credibility with the school, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say that the school helped you, but at the end of the day, you sort of like, especially people who are gonna want to do their own thing, they're gonna do their own thing, and they're gonna learn a lot of lessons, and it'll be due to failure, right? Which is fine, which is great. We should learn.
Yeah.
But I feel like when you're going to a school and your whole point is, to teach you, especially if you're asking, I want to produce my own show. Yeah. Teach them how. And I think there's not a conversation. I think there's not a bridge or something. There's like a disconnect with students and professors. And I would say also professors with the actual department, because then it goes to like, I mean, the thing is about buildings and the theaters in them, it's not just it's not like the theater owns the space.
Yeah.
It's actual CUNY like Queens College owns that theater. And so
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
happens, you know what I mean? So it's like whatever happens in that space is, you know, the Queens College needs to know about it and whatever, you know,
Yeah.
whatever's going on. So I can understand administratively, like the things that professors and teachers want to protect themselves. And but at the same time, I also feel like there isn't like that push, that I don't know, not push, but like that guidance,
Yeah.
like an actual guidance, and that goes even with like not just producing shows, but I think with anything. Like if you're, and that's just my experience for Queens College, but I see like how, like for acting students, you know, you take a bunch of acting classes, acting 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
right? And you know they teach you semi of like how you can live, but they don't, like, you know, I feel like they still don't guide you enough to push you, because I feel like there's this narrative, especially for professors, where it's like, well, I did it on my own, or I'm, you know, like saying like I need
Yeah.
to figure, you got to learn your own lesson.
It's odd how essentially there's always got to be a disconnect between professors and students, and also students with the administration at their the department at the college, because, like you said before, the college itself owns the building. The college itself owns the building, and they are allowing them to use this space for a X amount of time. At BMCC, there was a theater club, and the theater club, it went off for maybe a semester or two because they had no people, who would essentially bring it back. And then when they did bring it back, essentially, they only could use the black box theater, which is essentially a small space. But this next semester, they wanted to do they wanted to use the main production space. I mean, the main stage, which is essentially using Theater 2, which is a very big space altogether, which holds like maybe close to maybe 400 people or maybe 300 people, like 300, 400. And you've been to BMCC, right? To see shows there?
Yeah,
so,
I did.
Yeah. So the big, Theater 2, what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay. See, it's a fairly large space, so it holds like maybe either 300 people, or at least about 300, 400 people, especially if it's like full up. So, and if they're just doing this to use that space for a club production of a new play, of course it's got to be like the people in the theater department have to pull a lot of strings just to get that thing rolling together. Especially, from my time with them, as we just pointed out before, there's always going to be a disconnection between the theater students and the theater department staff in general, because not many people would be seen eye to eye. They'd probably be happy if it was just in a small space, which could be more manageable. But since you're using the bigger main stage, that's probably doing a lot more hoops and all that stuff. And of course, when you're using essentially an all student production staff, that's even got to be a lot more stressful for the faculty there. So yeah, but when you do it at a more, and again, I think this is probably the reason why I didn't see any like student, there was only like maybe one or two student run productions at Brooklyn College, and that was mostly just like towards the end of the semester or maybe at the start of the semester, so that sort of thing. And I know there is a music group. I think it was not like a music. It's like a music theater group. And like last year they did Little Shop of Horrors, and which was fantastic with the amount of stuff they did. And early this year they did Tick Tick Boom, which I didn't see because of timing and whatnot, because I was working during that time. So I can't see a show if I'm working. So, but yeah, And a lot of this stuff happens is because of budgetary reasons, which is essentially, as a student-run production, you have essentially X amount of money just to do, just to use for this amount of time. Especially if you have like if the budget is saying like, say, oh, you have like $1,200 for the budget, and your production is like, say, in a few weeks, you have to really make everything so scarce.
Right. Right. I think I'm not sure what your question is.
Oh well, my question is sorry,
Go ahead.
sorry about that. No, my question is essentially shoot, what is that question? This is the fun thing about my show. I lose my questions often, but
I know. I did want to comment on something because I know in LaGuardia we didn't have a budget. Like I was a part of theater club for a while, and we didn't really have a budget from the department. We actually at LaGuardia because we were a club, we worked with like the school had a certain amount of money that they would give to clubs, and then it would be this. We had to ask. So it was for us. It was kind of like fundraising and talking to other people in like that are leaders in the club, so they can vote yes to get approved from a certain amount of money. So we've tried. The way we worked with that was trying to work with other clubs to basically raise the amount of money in our budget.
Yeah.
And so we can get, because they'll get approved, and then we'll get approved like $2,000. So $2,000, $4,000, and then we would be able to do a show. I would say, just in like my experience at LaGuardia doing shows, it could get difficult when, again, I feel like this is the thing, like, especially maybe it's because like CUNY students already feel like they're not, like, because they've gone to CUNY, they're not like worth it. I don't know how to say it. They're like not
I think the word you're looking for is like they don't believe that they have the worth that they have. It's like
they don't believe in themselves, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I've seen a lot of people who become so disillusioned in terms of their acting, who are amazing actors, but over time they just become kind of disillusioned because people don't. Because CUNY really isn't one of those like private schools where it's like it becomes like what's it called, Juilliard or Yale or something like that.
Right. There's not a name behind it. So it's like if I went to study theater at LaGuardia and Queens College. Like they're not known. Like there's no one except like Fran Drescher and Jerry Springer. What's his name?
Jerry Springer.
Springer? No.
Jerry Seinfeld.
Seinfeld. There you go. I'm like Jerry Springer. No.
Oh, okay. I was just making sure because you said Jerry. I'm like Springer or Seinfeld. But then when you mentioned and then when you turn, it's like no. I'm like Seinfeld. Okay.
That would be but they both went to Queens College, but they I don't know if they even studied theater. Like that's not like something that, it's not credible. So for you to say that, to be an artist or be a creative in those spaces, it sounds like you're not, like, in some way. If you don't believe it in yourself, it can sound like, oh, well, are you, because you didn't go to a fancy whatever school. When I don't agree with that statement. I just feel like a lot of times people, because they're working towards something and they don't see a result, or they don't see like the professors or teachers, hyping them up or giving them the resources or letting them know that, hey, you actually can do this. Like, I believe in you so much as a student that I believe that you can do it, and showing you that path and pushing for that. But I don't always see that enough. But when I say that in regard to like clubs, because you can raise enough money, but if you don't know how to do anything, so what is the point? And I think especially when we're all trying to, we're pretty young, like we're in our early 20s. or even still in our teens, 18, we don't know nothing. Like,
essentially,
create these shows or an idea, like in our heads, we're like, we're gonna do this thing.
Gotta do this, gotta do that, and then they don't really tell you a damn thing because and this is the sad truth of it, is that I think for the most part, professors really don't want people to essentially. I gotta get closer to camera for this statement, but professors don't want people to get the sad truth that acting or theater in general is the big limelight that they always see in in films and TV and whatnot. There is a harsher truth to theater, and I've talked to professors, and professors have talked to me about it, and they said theater is not for everyone. 9 times out of 10, the people who you think are going to be very amazing stars, they end up not becoming stars themselves, even if they are quite talented. Or 9 times out of 10, you got people who think they are good stars, but their egos are so wrapped up, where it's just like they become like that self-absorbed, thinking they are the next Brando or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, it's. And this is a question that, like the same one, like the same comments before. This isn't really a question. This is more like this is again a conversation, but this is more like a comment, where it's just like, CUNY isn't really run like a private school system like Juilliard or NYU, that sort of thing. If you go to Juilliard or NYU, they teach you probably a different amount of how to act, that sort of thing. And I've seen NYU productions where it's just like, they kind of like blow away the stuff I see in Brooklyn College or at Hunter College, BMCC. Even though those productions at BMCC and Brooklyn College, Hunter, they are extraordinarily well done. It's like, if you want to see a good production in CUNY, go see a production at Brooklyn College. I'm not saying that because Brooklyn College has paid me. If they are listening or watching, please pay me. I need sponsors. But yeah, same with BMCC. Please pay me. I need sponsors. But yeah, if you go to, but all joking aside, if you go to, say, NYU or something like that, you will see exceptionally well done theater in a space similar to the type of space you probably see at a CUNY thing. But with CUNY, a lot of professors really don't want to have the heart-to-heart thing that says, hey, theater is not going to be, the moment you, and again, because of what happened with COVID, all the theater jobs really dried up because the theater on Broadway is blacked out for the next, like, maybe until probably winter or so. And then essentially, yeah, it's like until like January or so.
Yeah, 2021.
Yeah, so we got like a long time until like theater gets back to normal, and even then, like, how will theater be theater, especially nowadays? And like, what souls and what shows and musicals will be returning, that sort of thing too. But yeah, I think for the most part, professors really don't want to have the heart-to-heart talk about having theater isn't for everyone, and I've had professors who actually told me this point blank, says, Bryan, theater is not for everyone.
But why are they saying that to you, though?
Well, they're just being honest, and I think that's the whole thing, is that if you're being honest about what theater is, chances are there are people who want to become actors, and they don't have like the honesty. Yeah, I think it's because...
I'm sorry, but I would disagree, because I feel like theater may not be, okay, how do I say this? Some people love theater and they want to strive into acting. Like for me, like I remember in the beginning, I wanted to be an actor, right? I was like all up in there. I'm like, where are the scripts? Where's like all the monologues? I was very concentrated on that. I have evolved into, or I have grown and learned other aspects of myself slowly. And I think I think this is my problem though. I think when a professor tells you theater is not for everyone, I'm like, I don't care what you think. I'm paying you to make theater for everyone. Like, I feel like I feel like there is a way to teach someone and not like break their dreams, or kind of let them grow into understanding where they can fit in that theater space, because there's so
Yeah.
many things I think in theater that we need, that everyone's so focused on being the center or in on stage, when there's a need for backstage people and
Yeah,
just
essentially.
and I think a lot of times when you tell someone, oh, well, you're not, not theater's not for everyone. I'm like, well, there's different parts of theater. You can introduce that. If someone really, really is focused on being an actor, and let's say they're not like the best actor, but again, that is so subjective, because there's a lot of actors in Hollywood
Oh, I like that.
who are not like the best, but they're still able to make it work. And I think the
Yeah.
fact, like, I think when you dishearten, or like, you say that as a professor, you're supposed to be my guide, my person to look to and tell me, hey, how can I do this? How can I be better? What am I not focusing on? How can like, those are, as a professor, if I were a professor, or at least the professor I would want, is someone who would always, look, like, listen to me and say and tell me things like, maybe you should work on this. I see that you're struggling in this. I see, you need help with this, providing
Exactly.
me resources. But I think a lot of times professors take the easy way out and say, well, you know what, theater is not for everyone. Because I remember
Yeah.
in my classes, I think one of the it was my tech class, my technical class for theater
Yeah.
in college. And the first day of class, my teacher was like, sort of saying the same thing. The theater is not for everyone. And they basically want to teach this so we can be well-rounded.
Yeah.
And I kind of laughed. Like, I don't think like that is like, I think some teachers don't understand how to actually teach students. Like, actually, I don't know how to say it, but just giving them more opportunity, and like a more of a vision of like how theater could be.
I will say this though, I've had professors at Brooklyn College that have been so grateful that I work with, because they are essentially that aspiring mentor figure types that I do need in my life. Especially especially one of my acting professors, Manuel Simons. He is and was. I'm not sure why I'm using was in past tense, but he he's one of the greatest professors I've worked with, and he's always so energetic. He's always so. Not only is he like a mentor type, where he's like, Bryan, I know what and he talks to him very. It's like he has a very Southern accent, even though I'm not sure if he is Southern, but he has that very Southern accent. But I can't really do a Southern accent that well. But he says, Bryan, what you're doing is great, and he would always push me in the right direction to see what I'm doing, especially if I'm doing something like comedy, which he knows I'm very great at. Especially, a couple of semesters ago, in my second to last semester, I had a comedy class, and I had no idea how to do like comedy in terms of like physical timing and that sort of thing. And I did I did essentially two things for the class. One, which was essentially a monologue, which is a comedy monologue. Easy, do a monologue. But the second thing was essentially developing a comedy piece that I did for myself, which was essentially a silent piece, similar to like Buster Keaton, that sort of thing, where it has no words and it's more along the side of actions. And yeah, I think there are mentor types or inspiring figures who do help you in theater, but I think it's just because in CUNY there is just people who are kind of like very disillusioned, but because I think there are people who are working with other problems, that sort of thing, especially because professors, they don't get paid a lot, that sort of thing. So there's a lot more other factors dealing with, especially with the faculty and the theater department itself. It's like they would have like I would have theater professors who would just talk shit about the theater department, during class, while, in the safety of our own little space. It's like, hey, the theater department, they know what they're doing, and they kind of say that in a sense of a very sarcastic way of, I'm saying this very sarcastic way of saying it, but yeah, there are. But the question I have for you is, like, even though there are mentor types in theater, do you think that, especially what's been happening for the past, like, say, several months, especially in theater itself, because of what's been happening with COVID, and I know this has happened because they've been trying to do the same thing at Brooklyn College, which is essentially hire new faculty members, especially those who are essentially biracial, indigenous, and people of color, essentially, BIPOC. Thanks, Francis, for allowing me to know that term now. That's again, I'm filming this way in advance, so this is season 2. So I'm just referencing an episode I just filmed, which makes, anyway, I'm losing my train of thought. But yeah, do you think within this past, say, several months, especially what's been happening with COVID and not only that with the theater and theater in general, but also CUNY in general, especially transferring into online classes for the remainder, do you think that once there is a more once there is a more secure way to go back to school, where it feels safer to go back to school, do you see a lot more changes happening in these theater departments? Or do you see it sort of being the same but with some changes?
My hope is that it does change. I don't know if because all theater departments are way different. Yeah. I think for me, I would say that my hope, and this is a hope, is just that theaters themselves, with, like, even on Broadway, or not even just Broadway, like Broadway's Broadway, but like these oh my god, off Broadway shows or theaters, to understand adaptability, and adaptability in all of its senses, like, when it comes to its policies, understanding the curriculum that they're giving students, or the season that they're creating, the programs that they already have for students, like, how can they make it better? And my big hope is that it does change, and I think this really brought to light a lot of the things that were not working. I'm not in college right now, so I've spoken to some people who have are taking their theater classes online. I'm assuming it's a lot different. I'm assuming that for people who are taking classes online, it could feel like I assume it's not as engaging as maybe you would in a live class, in-person class. But again, it's about adaptability, and everyone, it's understanding. It's not like, theater went online and students don't know why. They know what's going on. And if there was a time where it was safe for people to start going into schools, and let's say everyone could go to school in person, I do hope that there is changes in the curriculum, especially. I do hope there's changes in the way the narrative is when a student wants to do theater, because I feel like, as we can see, Broadway is not the end goal. And even I think a lot of people don't know this, but even for Broadway shows, sometimes Broadway isn't the end goal. Broadway is just like the beginning for a lot of these shows, because then they'll go off and do a movie with that same script,
or
they'll
touring,
go off,
essentially,
or touring, or touring, you know, they get revenue off of that. It's not just the Broadway show. A lot of times it's just the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And, and I think just for us to understand that that's not always the narrative of us trying to be on Broadway. I feel like that's always like the thing to go to, especially when you're in New York. I think, especially when you are in New York, you see it so much. It's attainable. Like if I was an actor at Brooklyn College, and literally Manhattan is like right across the bridge, I could be on stage in any minute. You know, if I just audition at the right time, the right people, the right show. And I think, you know, I think that, but that's not, I think there's a different narrative of like theater itself, of like how you can create stories within your community. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not just, you know, I think a lot of times professors are like, well, you know, I've done like this, that, and the third, and, you know, all these fancy things, when students are, you know, of course they want someone who's like doing it, right? But if you can show someone that you're doing it without it making it like a snobby thing, like, oh, well, you know, you had to work this hard to reach, like, I remember I had an interview with one of the theaters. I didn't get the job, and I'm kind of grateful I didn't, thinking about it now. But there's Drew Jansen is a theater venue, has a bunch of theater venues in Manhattan, Broadway shows, right? So there's a bunch of theater venues that they run, right? And so I interviewed to be the executive assistant to the artistic director, or whatever, you know, the hire people, right? And I was really excited because I was like, oh my God, this is my opportunity. I'm going to shine.
Yeah.
I took the job because it was one of the things I strive to is to learn and to ask questions. And during my interview, I asked a bunch of questions, and I was writing them down. And I think the person on the other side felt a type of way because they thought I was going to give them, tell the world about like the things that they were doing. I'm like, like, I'm just gonna be like, what are they doing? Like, I don't know who they thought I was. But essentially, I just feel like sometimes there's like this vision of like people who are producers, who are the ones who have the money or that get the investors to produce the show. Essentially, they are the ones that do that. But I also feel like that needs to be broken. Like that unreachable thing of me trying to, like, if you wanted to do a show and you wanted to get an investor to, you know, someone to produce your show, right? You know, there should be like more of an attainable thing. And I think a lot of times we're not taught that in school. I think a lot of times it's like this narrative of like, well, you got to work real hard and you got to, you know, be in the street hungry and like being that starving artist, selling that idea. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that should be the way the narrative should go. And I think that a lot of teachers sell the idea because they themselves are going through it.
Yeah.
So, like, they don't want to, like, imagine, like, I don't know. It's kind of, it's that, like, it's that selfishness, I guess. I don't think all teachers are trying to do that, but I think there's like this like idea of like if a student is more capable and they came from nothing, especially when it comes to CUNY students, who a lot of them come from, you know, very low income places, you know. So I don't know. I don't know if I answered your question, but
no, I think you did. It actually gave me a great question to like segue into the next form of questioning, which is essentially producing, especially since now producing is, I will say, producing is almost very easy once you know the steps. It's like once you know the right people, to say, hey, I'm doing something, I'm doing a production, I'm going to need X amount of money. Is it possible that you give me at least this amount of money for this production I'm doing, and I can pay back somehow, some way to the revenue, that sort of thing. So that sort of thing. And of course, once you start knowing how to do producing, it's sort of like it's sort of like a stepping stone. It's like a format, that sort of thing. So
can be, yeah.
Yeah, and my question is, especially now that that Zoom theater seems to be more of a norm now for the time being, do you see Zoom theater continuing to be like this going into the new year, especially as World returns, or do you see like Zoom theater sort of like going down or like stopping-ish the moment like theater like reopens like
that? I feel like even for me, like seeing a show online can be difficult.
Yeah.
But I have been seeing a lot of different ways people have been producing lately. Like they're getting a little bit more savvier with Zoom. They're using background, like the background thing for Zoom. They're learning how to like enter into a room and it'll feel like the flow of like live performance.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it's live, sometimes it's already pre-recorded and you watch the pre-recording.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of that. I've also seen, a lot of free shows, which I am grateful for. There's a lot of free shows, so it's nice to just, when you are like haven't seen theater or haven't seen a performance, it's nice to watch something that isn't like edited like a film. It's nice to see a conversation flow. I to be honest, I kind of hope, because I do hope that there is like this understanding of how to use like these platforms, these new platforms, and be able to create the shows and make it fit into that platform. I think right now also, I think a lot of times there's a lot of people who want to produce shows but don't take into consideration the platform. And the platform is important because it's very hard to see something. Like, I think it's good to use the platform. A lot of times it's just like, now we're going to read a play and we're like, the way, I don't know how to say it, but just like the setting, like the way they're making it seem is like as if we're not watching it through Zoom. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I've seen I forgot what. Yeah, it's called. I think it's called Acting for a Cause, and they do like, I want to say weekly or maybe even bi-weekly streams of this, essentially Zoom readings of, say, first they did like Shakespearean things, and now they're kind of like branching off into film screenplays, that sort of thing, because they just did Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and then a few weeks ago they did like Up in the Air, that sort of thing. So now that, and before that, again, it was all mostly just Shakespeare, and a lot of this stuff that they do, they actually bring in famous actors, actresses, like regular theater people into the thing, and essentially, it's essentially like this. It's like, they would have it on like maybe Grid View or something like that, or Speaker View, that sort of things. And it's getting to a point where I think a lot of these Zoom productions are becoming a lot more, as you said, savvier, where it's like they know how to handle Zoom. They know how to like market the Zoom thing. A lot of these things are like maybe $5-10 just to go into, see a thing.
Right.
I haven't even seen a Zoom thing that costs like more than $5 or $10. And if it is that, then it is probably more like no, go ahead.
Oh no, I did see a production that I paid. It was prepaid though, but I think it was an archive. That's what it was. Sorry, it wasn't a Zoom.
Oh, okay.
It was like one of those, like they took it out and it was like $15. But I was willing to pay $15 to see that because I couldn't make it. And I was actually really happy because I couldn't make it to New York, and it was pre-COVID, and I couldn't make it. So, but I missed the show, and then because of COVID, they're trying to make their money and whatever, and get shows for them to go see for us to go see their shows, and so they were able to provide a link to go see it, but I had to pay $15, and I was so grateful. But yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of I think that's what I want to see more of, and I think playwrights would have to think about the way that they're writing, because if I start writing about something that I would be in person, but I'm talking to them through Zoom. And let's say in the scene someone kills me, right?
Yeah.
I have to kill myself. I just feel like I would as an audience member, I would disconnect very easily because I'm watching something live and I know you're not gonna die because they're not next to you. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think with something like that, when you have to handle a death scene, when you have to handle a death scene on Zoom, it's sort of I might be reaching out to you like this, and then you will probably be somehow do it like that.
But then for me, it would be like a film. I don't know. I haven't personally seen yet a death scene. So maybe if someone can convince me of that being how they could do it. But for me, I think taking consideration of the platform and how to use it, you can create really great stories with just these platforms. And I think that's going forward, that's something just to think about, because we have to think about it if it's something that we're going to do, still later on through Zoom. I actually believe that these Zoom plays is getting more traction in some way for theater itself, because other people are they want to see other content that's not just Netflix or just films on Netflix or Hulu or anything like that, but they want to see other things and be able to provide such an easier access for a person who may have always wanted to see a show or see a live performance of something, but they never got the chance to because they don't live. I live in what's it called? I live in South Jersey. There isn't great theaters here.
Yeah.
I don't have many theaters here, so seeing things online, access.
The closest thing I know of Jersey theater is probably maybe Atlantic City, and that's if I'm lucky enough.
Yeah, but they don't have it's not like Broadway.
So it's
like a concert that would be, or comedy shows.
And it's odd how it's just odd how essentially now with people becoming a lot more accustomed to Zoom and people actually becoming essentially a lot more accustomed to essentially producing for Zoom, especially producing new stage readings of of plays or scripts that they wanted to do, and they can't really do this face to face. This seems like the only way to do it until the time being, and then by the time maybe January rolls around, once theaters start reopening, maybe that's when everybody starts I won't say abandoning this idea, but if I know people are still using Zoom to at least create essentially a network of people to essentially create a network of theater people. Especially since my upcoming episode, especially since one of my past episodes, I actually talked with people who actually formed a Zoom, I won't say Zoom theater thing, but a thing that was sort of born out of Zoom, but mostly born out of quarantine. So I think what I'm trying to say is that I hope during this time of quarantine and self-quarantine, that sort of thing, people were able to or are able to essentially form and interconnect with people who have the same ideas, but they can't really do anything because of the place that you live in. You say you're in South Jersey right now, and you just said that Jersey doesn't have that much of a theater thing, but since you're practically a stone's throw away from New York City, it's easy to essentially produce something or promote something that's happening in New York City.
Right.
But how do you create Jersey theater? So I hope to see that more Zoom things like this, like that was born out of quarantine, essentially becomes more of a norm, especially going forward, because you may have a great idea, but you may be like maybe 3 hours away from a major city, or major, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like a thought of like accessibility, and the way that digitalizing theater is, you're able, like I think about it, and I thought about this a lot too, because I always think, and I always try to be like trying to get as many, as a person who has also dealt with marketing.
Yeah.
I don't think that all shows are like meant for everyone, but I also think when you're thinking about a show, you think about your audience and who you want your audience to be. Who's the story for? Who do you want people in there thinking about your show? And so I always think about ways of accessibility for certain groups of people. And I think in this quarantine, I also thought, wow, I can only imagine the people who are home for whatever reason. They're not able to make it. They don't have enough money. They don't have, are not like capable physically to go to these theaters. A lot of these theaters don't always have elevators or wheelchair access, or something, or even the seats themselves are too small for an audience, and for anybody to fit. Sometimes I'm just like this, I'm watching, it's like so tight. But I think about that in accessibility when you talk about digitalizing art and shows. So I think this is positive in that sense. I really hope people who are producing and creating these shows are thinking about that. Because I do think that there is audiences like that, who are at home, who are not able to access for whatever reason something. I also say that, like, I've also seen, and one of my friends are producing live events in like parks. So there's social distancing in that way, because it's a park, it's outside. So people are able to, still, I think maybe now, I haven't gone yet because I'm here in South Jersey, but I have seen it online where they're creating shows outside. I think it's about accessibility and just being kind and thoughtful about your surroundings. And I haven't seen that yet, to be honest. I haven't seen that much with businesses, even just regular businesses, where I still feel like they're trying to fit in as many people as they can because of the profit.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and for me, I think because it's like a theatrical thing, it's about the experience of it all.
Yeah. I think for the most part, this is a good discussion point to end on, but because I don't like to have these episodes overly long, and I think we both talked a lot about great stuff, especially on not only producing side, but also as both essentially as CUNY alumni. But I think on a great tipping point to end on is that in digital, it's odd how essentially I've seen theaters who actually have, cameras that are essentially inside the theater. So if you're outside, say, when it was last fall, I was ushering out a theater. I won't say what theater it is. You probably know what theater I'm talking about. but I was ushering for a production of an off-Broadway play, and when someone had to leave the thing, they couldn't get and if it was during a very seedy scene, they couldn't like go back in the theater. So they essentially had to wait outside the theater. But even if they couldn't get back to their seat in time, you could still go downstairs and watch the show from a television downstairs, because they had TV down there. Because you could see the TV essentially. Granted they had to cover up when the steamy stuff happened, but you could still watch the play on TV if you couldn't get back to the to your seat. So yeah, I think for the most part, theaters need to essentially start digitizing stuff and start to, especially since Disney Plus released Hamilton recently, and it was a major hit for the streaming service. I think it's going to be a lot more people wanting to see these shows that they haven't been able to see because of
right.
because of availability. Whereas if you're in say Philadelphia, and you want to go see a Broadway show, that's going to be a long drive to and from Philadelphia, especially since you probably have to book it. Unless you have family who lives in New York, you gotta have to book accommodations for yourself, that sort of thing. Find a good seat just to see. So having essentially digitized media, especially since this is now a thing now where it's like people are able to essentially record their Zoom thing and also save their Zoom thing, especially
right.
to those who want to see it or live stream it, that sort of thing. And the live stream essentially saves it anyway. It's unlike for a different streaming service. But yeah, I think for the most part, theaters have to become a lot more smarter in digitizing things, because there are people who do want to see these. There are people who do want to see these performances, but they can't see these performances because the ticket prices are going to be like $150 for a mezzanine seat, or $75 for like the high up, like way high up seat, where it's like you can barely see the stage, and be like, yeah, I'm finally seeing the show, that sort of thing. And yeah, it's like they have to start playing very smartly about how to do all this stuff now, because there are a lot of these shows that are now ending on Broadway because of the COVID thing, like Beetlejuice, Frozen, that sort of thing. And there are probably people who haven't seen these shows because of what's been happening, but because of ticket prices have been so skyrocketing just to see these shows. If you were when Hamilton was first starting out, I'm pretty sure just to see that show on Broadway was probably like maybe $200, $300. So that's even for a good ticketing price. So yeah, I think for the most part, Broadway needs to start doing more digitizing their own shows, so people could have much more of an accessibility, especially if they can't, because there are theaters who don't have, like you said before, who don't have elevators, and if they do have elevators, it's only strictly limited access to certain people. And then for people who have, like, say, wheelchair stuff, or having to who can't really sit down personally, sitting in those seats are like hard enough to actually do that, because I've sat in a Broadway seat and I've sat in a off-Broadway seat. It's generally the same thing, because it's like a very tight space. So if you have like leg problems or restless legs thing, it's a very hard thing. But yeah, I think this is a good discussion and point to actually end on my thing. Dayi, thank you for being a great guest today. I do have like 3 other questions, so it's fairly easy. One.
Okay.
The first question is, could we expect anything for you in the foreseeable future?
Oh my gosh. Well, yes, this week I will be actually partnering up with, the school partnered up with LaGuardia Community College, partnered up with the 24-hour play company, and now we're able to do a 24-hour play thing. So I'll be in that this week. I'll be a writer. I think it's the first time I've been in something where I'm a writer.
Yay,
So
for writing.
Yeah, so I'm actually really excited.
Granted,
And yeah.
granted, because of this being taped way in advance, would this be able to like be faster like recordings and like people be able to still see it?
Oh, I don't know. You know what? Maybe so, because the 24-hour plays usually record.
Good.
So they have it saved in like a space. So like if you go to their 24-hour play, I think it's saved. So you can probably check out my work there. So I'm really excited about that. And then I'm also, I mean, as of yet, I don't know when anything will be, but I am partnering up to create a program with a theater. So you'll probably see that in the near future. I don't want to say too much about it because we're still figuring out certain things, but that's something that will happen in the future. But you can always check me out at
knock on wood there.
Okay, go ahead.
Knock on wood. But yeah, that actually sounds pretty nice to have a theater opportunity in the future, like a theater company, essentially, especially in the opportunity in the future, and having a product of yours that you wrote and have it be produced and acted for a 24-hour play thing. That's always awesome. Do you have any advice for those who are listening or watching?
Oh my gosh. My advice is to just do it. Whatever you want to do in your life, just do it. And don't compare yourself in the path that people are, put like the path that you see others in. It's your path. It's your choices. The things that you want to do and the things you have a passion for. Learn about it. Being engulfed in it. Experience it for yourself. Always be a student. always. You always have room to grow and learn and be better. And just do the thing that you love and want to do in the world.
That's that's a very great advice to use, especially since nowadays where people don't know if they can do it. That's what things hearing that is pretty genuinely heartwarming to hear. And the last question, which is the easiest question, do you have any social media you want to plug?
Yes, I have socials. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at a dose of Dayi. That's my that's Dose of Dayi. That's me. You can find me there. You can also add me on Facebook. It's Dayi Sanchez. I'll always be welcoming and adding people because I definitely am a person. I'm like, I don't know you, but I will add you as friends. And you can also join our Facebook group. So if you're also in it, you're a member, which is the A&E type, and it's a group that is dedicated for growth, community, and inspiration for artists and entrepreneurs. So if you're someone who is a go-getter, who wants to create, who is passionate about doing things for yourself, this is a group for you. So definitely go join.
I've been trying my best for the past couple of months to actually help expand that group. So I've been like randomly sending my friends e-bites e-bites to that group because I know they would probably love that group because it's like, because I will say this, Dayi, you're a great person to talk to. You're always energetic. You're always so thoughtful. It's like you're essentially like you're essentially like that one person that you talk to and you just talk to for like hours and hours on end, and then by the time you remember, it's like, what, were we supposed to be doing something? Like, nah, and then suddenly like, oh, we were supposed to do this thing, and then it's like, all right, so I'll talk to you later.
Well, I'm glad I make you feel comfortable in that way.
but yeah, that's why I wanted to end this episode as much as I could, because I know we could just talk more about CUNY. We could talk about more about Broadway. Producing, and again, producing, I feel like is another thing that we could talk about endlessly. Talk about was, again, producing my first show was hard enough because like I said before, when you're producing something by yourself, it's practically a grassroots campaign, whereas it's like you have essentially no budget to do all this stuff. You may have a space, but you need to find a director, you need to be the producer, and then if you're the writer too, you're also the playwright. So that's like other stuff that's going to be like things. But I'm just glad that you came on to the show at this point. And this concludes what I feel is episode 5 of season 2 of Performing Arts. My name is Bryan M. Davis, as always. So yeah, just have a good day, everybody, or good night whenever you're watching this. But yeah.